My daughter took over the business. I bought it back after bankruptcy. Hi everyone. Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I remember the smell of fresh paint in that first tiny office, 22 square meters on the third floor of a building that had seen better days. No elevator. Windows that rattled when trucks passed on the street below. A desk I'd bought secondhand, scratched and uneven, and a phone that I'd installed myself, hands shaking as I twisted the wires together. It was 1998. I was 31 years old, recently divorced, with a 6-year-old daughter sleeping in the room next to mine every night, and exactly $700 in my bank account. I had no safety net, no wealthy family to fall back on, no husband's income to cushion the risk. Just a skill I'd spent years perfecting, graphic design and print production, and a stubborn belief that I could build something that would last. The first client came through a friend of a friend. A small bakery needed new packaging. They paid me $150, and I spent 3 sleepless nights getting it perfect. I remember sitting at that scratched desk at 2 a.m, the city silent outside, adjusting colors on my computer screen, pixel by pixel, my daughter asleep in the next room, her breathing the only sound besides the hum of my old machine. When the bakery owner saw the final design, she cried. She said I'd captured exactly what she'd been dreaming of but couldn't express. She told 3 other business owners. Then those 3 told others. Within 6 months, I had 12 regular clients. Within a year, I'd hired my first employee, a young designer fresh out of school, eager and talented. Within 3 years, I'd moved into a proper office space, one with reliable heat and windows that didn't rattle, and a team of 5 people who believed in what we were building. I named the company Cornerstone Creative, because that's what I wanted it to be, something solid, something fundamental, something that would stand. Every morning, I arrived before anyone else. I made the coffee, strong and bitter, in the old machine I'd brought from that first office. I'd walk through the space, touching the desks, checking the supplies, making sure everything was ready. This wasn't just a business to me. It was proof that I could survive, that I could provide, that my daughter would never have to be afraid the way I'd been afraid. Emma was growing up in that office. She'd come after school and do her homework at the conference table. The team loved her. They'd bring her snacks, help her with math problems, let her use the colored pencils to draw while we worked. She'd watch me in meetings, quiet and observant, those intelligent eyes taking everything in. "Why do you work so hard, Mom?" she asked me once. She was 12, sitting across from me at that conference table, surrounded by her school books. I looked at her, really looked at her. She had her father's dark hair but my eyes, my determination in the set of her jaw. "Because I'm building something that will last," I told her. "Something that will take care of us, something that one day will be yours." She smiled then, and I felt such overwhelming love and pride that my chest ached. The years moved forward like water, steady and relentless. Cornerstone Creative grew. We specialized in brand development for small to mid-sized businesses, companies that needed quality work but couldn't afford the big agencies. We were honest, reliable, and we cared. Our clients stayed with us for years. Some of them became friends. By the time Emma graduated from college with a business degree, we had 23 employees, an office that took up an entire floor, and annual revenue that would have seemed impossible in that first rattling office. We'd survived recessions, market changes, the shift to digital. We'd adapted, learned, grown. I was 53 years old. My hair had more silver than brown. I wore reading glasses now. My hands sometimes ached from decades at the computer, but I'd done it. I'd built something real. And Emma, bright, ambitious Emma, wanted to be part of it. "Let me work with you, Mom," she said over dinner one evening. She'd been working at a marketing firm in the city for 2 years, but I could see she wasn't satisfied. Let me help you take Cornerstone to the next level. My heart swelled. This was what I'd dreamed of. My daughter, continuing what I'd started, building on the foundation I'd laid. Of course, I said. Of course, sweetheart. She started in business development. She was good, charismatic, educated, full of fresh ideas. The clients liked her. The team respected her. She had my work ethic, and something I'd never had, the confidence that comes from never having been truly afraid. For 3 years, we worked side by side. I taught her everything I knew. How to read a client's real needs beneath their stated wants. How to manage cash flow conservatively. How to treat employees like family. How to build trust slowly, brick by brick. She was impatient sometimes. She wanted to grow faster, take bigger risks, chase larger clients. But she listened to me. We'd debate strategies over coffee in my office, the same bitter brew I'd made for decades, and eventually find compromise. I was proud. So proud. When I turned 58, my doctor mentioned early arthritis in my hands. Nothing serious yet, but enough to make me think about the future. I'd been running Cornerstone for 27 years. I was tired in a way that went bone deep. Emma was 32, experienced, capable. She'd proven herself 100 times over. One evening, as rain drummed against the windows of my office, I called her in. I've been thinking, I said, watching her settle into the chair across from my desk. It's time. She looked at me, and I saw understanding dawn in her eyes. You mean, I want to transition the company to you, I said. The words felt enormous. Gradually, over the next year, I'll stay on as a consultant, be here whenever you need me. But it's time for you to lead. This is your future, Emma, your inheritance, not just the business, the legacy. She stood up and came around the desk, and we hugged, and I felt tears on my cheeks that I didn't try to hide. I won't let you down, Mom, she whispered. I promise. I know, I said, and I meant it. The transition took 11 months. We held meetings, drafted documents, informed the staff and clients. There was a celebration on Emma's first official day as CEO cake in the conference room, speeches, champagne in plastic cups. The team gave her a plaque that read, "Building on a Strong Foundation." I kept a small office and continued to come in 3 days a week, available for advice, but consciously stepping back. It was harder than I'd expected. 27 years of habits don't disappear easily. But Emma needed room to lead, and I needed to trust her. For the first 6 months, things ran smoothly. Emma maintained most of our processes, made small improvements, brought fresh energy to client relationships. I was relieved, proud, grateful. Then the changes started. It began with hiring. Emma brought in a new creative director, someone she'd known from her previous job, young and ambitious, with ideas about disrupting our industry. Then a new head of business development. Then 3 new designers, all straight out of expensive schools, hungry to make names for themselves. We need fresh blood, Mom, she explained when I expressed concern. The industry is changing. We need to think bigger. She started pursuing larger corporate clients, the kind we'd always avoided, because they demanded faster turnarounds, paid slower, and treated vendors as disposable. The profit margins are better, she insisted. We can't stay small forever. Old clients started calling me. Not complaining exactly, but confused. The personal touch was disappearing. Projects that used to take careful time were being rushed. The attention to detail that had been our signature was slipping. I tried to talk to Emma about it, gently at first. Remember why our clients stay with us, I said over coffee in my small office. It's not because we're the fastest or the flashiest. It's because we care. I know, Mom, she said, but she was checking her phone, distracted. But we need to scale. The old model isn't sustainable. It sustained us for 27 years, I said quietly. She looked up then, and I saw something in her eyes I didn't recognize. A hardness, a certainty that had no room for doubt. Times change, she said, You have to trust me. So I tried. I bit my tongue when she fired Margaret, our head of client relations who'd been with us for 19 years, replacing her with someone who talked about metrics and optimization. I said nothing when she moved us to a cheaper print vendor to save money, even though the quality wasn't quite the same. I stayed silent when she started pushing the team to work longer hours, chase bigger projects, prioritize quantity over the careful quality that had built our reputation. I kept coming to the office, but I felt like a ghost in my own company. The walls were painted a trendy gray. The old coffee machine was gone, replaced by an expensive espresso maker that no one seemed to use. New faces everywhere. The warmth, that family feeling we'd cultivated, was evaporating. The old team members who remained would stop by my office, closing the door carefully. "It's not the same," they'd say. "She's changing everything." "Give her time," I'd tell them, hoping I was right. "She's finding her way." But I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, a cold anxiety growing in my chest. The numbers started to worry me. I still had access to the financial reports, though Emma had made it clear she preferred I didn't review them unless asked. But I couldn't help myself. This was still my company, legally and spiritually. I'd signed papers, yes, but it was still my life's work. Revenue was up. She'd been right about that. But profits were down, way down. The new corporate clients paid well, but demanded massive resources. We were hiring expensive talent to service them. The smaller clients who'd been our bread and butter were leaving, quietly, without fanfare. Cash reserves were dwindling. I called Emma to my office on a Tuesday morning. Rain again. It seemed like it was always raining now. "We need to talk about the finances," I said, spreading the reports on my desk. She glanced at them, then at me. "We're growing, Mom. Growth requires investment. We're burning through our reserves. That's temporary, once the new clients are fully onboarded." "Emma." I kept my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "This is exactly what I warned you about. Fast growth looks good on paper, but if the foundation isn't solid—" "The foundation is fine," she said sharply. "Mom, I love you, but you need to let me run this my way. Your approach worked for your time. But it's my time now." The words hit me like a slap. Not because they were cruel, they weren't meant to be, but because they were so casually dismissive of everything I'd built. "My time?" I said quietly. "Emma, the principles don't have a time. Treating people well, maintaining quality, building trust, those aren't old-fashioned. They're fundamental." "I know what I'm doing," she said, standing up. "Please trust me." But I didn't. Not anymore. Over the next 6 months, I watched helplessly as everything accelerated. More hires, bigger projects, a flashy new website that barely mentioned our history, social media campaigns that felt desperate, promising things we couldn't consistently deliver. The old guard left. Some quit. Some were let go. Each departure felt like losing a piece of my soul. I stopped going to the office every day. It hurt too much. I'd come in once a week, sit in my small office, and feel like an intruder in the house I'd built. Emma and I barely spoke about business anymore. When we had dinner, we talked about surface things. Weather, books, her boyfriend. The easy intimacy we'd shared was gone, replaced by a careful politeness that broke my heart. I wanted to intervene, to step in and take back control. But the papers had been signed. Legally, it was her company now. And more than that, she was my daughter. I didn't want to crush her confidence. I didn't want her to resent me. I kept hoping she'd see the problems herself and correct course. I kept hoping until the day my phone rang at 6 in the morning. Emma's voice was small and broken, nothing like the confident CEO she'd tried to become. "Mom," she said. "Mom, I need you." I was out of bed instantly, heart pounding. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" "Can you come to the office? Now?" I drove through the dawn streets, my hands white-knuckled on the wheel. The building looked the same from the outside, solid, permanent. But when I stepped off the elevator, I could feel the wrongness immediately. Emma was in what used to be my office, was technically still her office. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red. Papers were scattered across the desk. "Tell me," I said. She couldn't look at me. "We're bankrupt, Mom, or we will be. In about 3 weeks, unless we can find a miracle." The room seemed to tilt. What happened? The story came out in broken pieces. The big corporate client that was supposed to be their anchor had pulled out, citing quality issues. Other clients had followed. There were threats of lawsuits over missed deadlines and substandard work. Payroll was due, and there wasn't enough to cover it. Vendors were demanding payment. The bank was calling about the line of credit that had been maxed out. "I tried to fix it," Emma whispered. "I tried so hard. I thought if I just pushed harder, worked faster, chased bigger opportunities." She finally looked at me, and in her eyes I saw the child she'd been, the little girl doing homework at the conference table while I built something I'd thought would last forever. "I ruined it, didn't I?" she said. "I took everything you built and I destroyed it." I wanted to comfort her, to say it would be okay, but the words wouldn't come. I stood there in silence, looking at the papers scattered across the desk, the financial reports with their terrible red numbers, and felt something inside me break, and then, strangely, resolve. "How much time do we have?" I asked. 3 weeks before we have to declare bankruptcy. Maybe 4. I nodded slowly. "I need to see everything. All the contracts, all the debts, all the assets, everything." She looked confused. "Mom, there's nothing you can do. I've been over it 100 times. There's no way out." "Let me see it anyway," I said. For the next 3 days, I barely slept. I reviewed every document, every contract, every financial statement. I called old contacts lawyers, accountants, business advisors I'd worked with over the decades. I made spreadsheets. I ran numbers. I sat in my apartment at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, drinking bitter coffee and thinking. The company was too far gone to save in its current form. The debts were too large, the bleeding too severe. Emma was right about that. But the assets, the client list, the intellectual property, the equipment, even the name those had value. In a bankruptcy, they'd be sold off for pennies on the dollar to whoever happened to be there to buy them. Or they could be sold before bankruptcy, in a private transaction, to someone who understood their true worth. On the 4th day, I met with my lawyer in a coffee shop far from the office. "I want to buy the company," I said, "through a third party, a blind acquisition." He raised his eyebrows. "You want to buy back your own company?" "Yes." "Emma will have to agree to sell, and she'll know it's you eventually." "I know," I said. "But right now, she's desperate. She needs an exit, and I need to save what I built." He was quiet for a moment, stirring his coffee. "This will cost everything you have. Your retirement savings, your investments, all of it." "I know." "And there's no guarantee you can turn it around. The damage is severe." "I know that too." He looked at me across the table. "Why? Why do this? You could walk away, let it die, start something new." I thought about that first office with the rattling windows, the smell of fresh paint, my daughter sleeping in the next room while I worked through the night, building something that would last. "Because it's mine," I said simply. "Because I built it with my hands, and my time, and my belief, and I'm not ready to watch it die. Not like this." The transaction took 10 days. My lawyer connected Emma with a private equity group, actually a shell company I'd set up interested in acquiring distressed creative agencies. The offer was fair given the circumstances, enough to pay off the immediate debts and give Emma a small amount to restart her life. Not generous, but not cruel. I watched from a distance as she made the decision. She called me twice, asking for advice. "They're offering to buy the company," she said, her voice exhausted. "It's not much, but it would cover the debts. I'd have to walk away with almost nothing." "What do you want to do?" I asked carefully. "I don't know. It feels like failure." It is failure, I said gently. But sometimes failure is how we learn. The question is whether you can live with it. She was quiet for a long moment. What would you do? I closed my eyes. I'd do what gives you the best chance to build something again. Someday, when you're ready. She signed the papers 3 days later. I didn't attend the closing. I couldn't. I sat in my apartment and waited for my lawyer's text confirming the transaction was complete. When it came, "It's done." I sat for a long time, not moving, feeling the weight of what I'd done settle over me. I owned Cornerstone Creative again. At 59 years old, with my retirement savings gone and arthritis in my hands, I owned the company I'd built 3 decades ago and lost 2 years ago and now had back, damaged, and broken, but mine. The next morning, I returned to the office. It was early before anyone else would be there. I used the key I'd never returned, rode the elevator up, stepped into the space that still smelled faintly of the expensive espresso no one used. I walked through slowly. The trendy gray walls, the modern furniture, the faces in the framed photos on the walls. Most of them people I didn't know, Emma's hires who'd come and gone so quickly. I went to the office that had been mine, then Emma's, now mine again, sat in the chair, put my hands flat on the desk, and then I started making calls. Margaret, my old head of client relations, answered on the second ring. I could hear the surprise in her voice. "I'm back," I told her. "The company's mine again. I need help rebuilding. Are you interested?" There was a long pause. Then, "I thought I'd never hear you say that. Yes, absolutely, yes." I called 4 more people from the old team. 3 said yes immediately. 1 needed time to think, but called back 2 hours later with a yes. I called old clients, the ones who'd left when Emma had changed everything. "This is a fresh start," I told them. "Back to what we were. Quality, care, attention. I'm personally guaranteeing it." Some were skeptical, some were cautious, but most remembered. They'd worked with us for years. They'd trusted us once. They were willing to trust again. For 3 weeks, I didn't tell Emma. She knew the company had been sold, but she didn't know to whom. I needed time to stabilize, to make sure I could actually do this. I was back to working 18-hour days. My hands ached, my eyes burned. But I felt alive again in a way I hadn't in 2 years. On a Thursday evening, as I was reviewing contracts in my office again, with my old scratched desk that I'd retrieved from storage and the bitter coffee machine that I'd found in a cabinet, there was a knock on the door. I looked up. Emma stood there, and I could see she knew. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with understanding. "It was you," she said. "You bought it. You bought back the company." I nodded slowly. "Yes." She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Would it have changed anything?" She sank into the chair across from the desk, the same chair where we'd sat so many times before, planning, strategizing, dreaming. "I destroyed it," she said, her voice breaking. "Everything you built, 27 years of your life, and I destroyed it in 2 years." "Yes," I said, because there was no point in lying. "You did." She flinched like I'd struck her. "I thought I could make it better. I thought I knew better than you. I was so arrogant, so stupid." "You were ambitious," I interrupted, "and confident. And those aren't bad things, Emma. But you forgot something important." "What?" I leaned forward, looking at my daughter, this woman I'd raised and loved and been so proud of, and now had to teach the hardest lesson of her life. "You took my business," I said quietly. "But you didn't take my principles. You wanted the success without understanding what built it. You wanted growth without foundation. You wanted to run before you'd learned to walk." Tears were streaming down her face now. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." "I know you are. Can you ever forgive me?" I was quiet for a long moment. Outside, rain had started again, tapping against the windows with that familiar rhythm. You're my daughter, I said finally. I'll always forgive you. But Emma, forgiveness isn't the same as trust. Trust has to be earned back. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I understand. Do you? I asked. Because here's what I need you to understand. I gave you this company. I gave you my life's work, and you treated it like a toy, like something to experiment with. You fired people who'd been loyal for decades. You chased money instead of meaning. You were in such a hurry to make your mark that you erased mine. I know, she whispered. Money can be earned back, I continued. The company can be rebuilt. I'm doing that now. But Emma, the relationships you damaged, the trust you broke, the legacy you cheapened, those are harder to restore, much harder. She sat there, shoulders shaking with silent sobs, and I felt my heart break for her, even as I knew I had to say these things. What do I do now? She asked finally. How do I fix this? You can't fix it, I said. Not all of it. Some things, once broken, stay broken. But you can learn from it. You can grow from it. And someday, when you're ready, you can build something new, your own thing, with the lessons you've learned. She looked up at me. I don't want to build something new. I want to help you rebuild this. Let me work for you, Mom. Please. Not as CEO. Not as anything special. Just let me help. Let me show you I can do better. I studied her face, saw the earnestness there, the desperation, the regret. Also saw the young woman who'd dismissed my concerns, who'd been so certain she knew better, who'd taken something precious and broken it through arrogance and impatience. No, I said finally. Her face crumpled. Mom! Not yet, I clarified. Emma, you need time. Away from this. You need to figure out who you are separate from my shadow, separate from this company. You need to learn what you actually value, what you actually want to build. Not what you think you should want, not what looks impressive, what actually matters to you. This matters to me, she protested. Does it? Or does it matter because it's mine? Because it's what you think you're supposed to want? She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. The silence stretched between us. Go build something small, I said gently. Something that's entirely yours. Something you can't destroy because it's too important to you. And if you succeed, if you show me you've learned what success actually means, then maybe we'll talk about you coming back. Maybe. She stood up slowly, walked to the door, turned back. I love you, Mom, she said. I love you too, sweetheart, I replied. That was never in question. She left. I sat alone in my office, listening to the rain, and let myself cry for the first time in months. That was 8 months ago. Cornerstone Creative is still here. We're smaller now, only 12 employees, all from the old team or carefully chosen new people who understand what we're about. We've won back about half of our old clients. Revenue is steady, not spectacular. Profits are modest but real. I'm 60 years old. My hands hurt every day. I'll probably work until I'm 70 now, maybe longer, rebuilding what was lost. My retirement savings are gone. I have no safety net. But the coffee smells right. The walls are painted a warm cream color. The team stays late sometimes because they want to, not because they're pressured to. Clients call to chat, not just to demand. The work is good again. Emma and I talk once a week. She's working at a small nonprofit, doing marketing for almost no money. She lives in a tiny apartment, drives an old car. She sounds tired but different, humbler, quieter, more thoughtful. She doesn't ask about coming back. I don't offer. Last week, she mentioned she's thinking about starting a small freelance business. Just her, helping small nonprofits with their branding. That sounds good, I told her. Start small, build it right. Yeah, she said. That's what I'm thinking. There was a pause, comfortable this time. Mom, she said, thank you. For what? For buying it back, for not letting it die. I know it cost you everything. It did, I agreed, but it was mine. What I built belongs to me, not just the profits or the property, but the meaning of it. and I wasn't ready to watch it disappear. Another pause. "I understand now," she said quietly. "What you were trying to teach me, about principles, about foundation. I wish I'd understood sooner." "We all learn on our own timelines," I said. "Sometimes the lessons we need most are the ones that hurt worst." Now I sit in my office, late at night, with the bitter coffee and the scratched desk and the windows that don't rattle anymore. The building is quiet. The city is quiet. Rain taps against the glass. In my drawer, I keep a small notebook. I write in it sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep. Tonight I write, "I gave her my name, my home, my life's work." I thought that was enough, but gratitude isn't inherited. Wisdom isn't transferred. Character isn't gifted. She took what I built, but not what built it. She wanted the destination without the journey, the crown without the kingdom, the success without the sacrifice that makes success meaningful. I bought it back. Not for revenge. Revenge would have been letting it die and watching her live with that. I bought it back because some things are too much of yourself to surrender. Because 27 years of your life doesn't vanish just because someone else fails to value it. I'm 60 years old and starting over. My daughter and I talk but carefully, with a distance that might never fully close. Some relationships, once broken, scar when they heal. They're still there, still connected, but different. I don't know if she'll ever truly understand what she took from me. Not the money or the time, though she took those too, but the trust. The belief I had that my daughter would honor what I'd built, that she would see it as sacred, as I did. Maybe she will, someday. Maybe her small freelance business will teach her what no amount of my lecturing could. Maybe she'll build something she loves too much to break. Or maybe not. Maybe this is just the story of a mother who loved her daughter enough to give her everything, and a daughter who had to lose it all to understand what it was worth. Either way, Cornerstone Creative survives. Not because of her. Not even despite her. But because I refuse to let it die. That's what legacy really is, I think. Not what you pass down, but what you're willing to fight for. What you're willing to sacrifice for. What you build so well that even when it's broken, the foundation remains, waiting for someone who understands its value to rebuild it. I built it once with hope and fear and desperate love for my daughter's future. I'm building it again with sorrow and wisdom and love for the work itself. This time, I'm building it to last beyond me. To exist whether or not anyone inherits it. To stand as proof that what we build with integrity matters, especially when the world tries to tell us it doesn't. That's enough. It has to be. I close the notebook, finish the bitter coffee, turn off the light. Tomorrow I'll come back, make the coffee, check the desks. Start again. That's what you do when you build something real. You show up, you do the work, you honor what you've built. Even when it costs you everything, especially then,